Welcome to Round Robin. I'm your host, Robin McCormick with the City of Hampton, and today we are going to introduce you to Diversity College, what it is, why we do it, and how it can benefit you. My guests are the entire staff of the Citizens Unity Commission, Synetheia, Newby, and Latiesha, Handie. Welcome.
Hi, Robin. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
I think this is one of the unique things that Hampton does. Not every city, not very many cities do it.
Right.
Why? Why do we do it, and what is Diversity College?
Great question. Diversity College is really a wonderful opportunity for participants to receive education around diversity and inclusion. It's also a great opportunity to connect with other people. It's also a wonderful opportunity for exposure, which is something that is really important to us in the Unity Commission, where people have an opportunity to be exposed to perspectives and viewpoints that they otherwise may not ever be exposed to. Our Diversity College is really set up to be a conversation. So whether it's our level 1 or our level 2, the structure is so that we come together and we're able to have conversations with one another about how our differences really bring us together.
I know back when I was in the for-profit corporate world, there was a time when we had a lot of human resources trainings and diversity was included in that. But then it went away. I mean, a lot of companies don't do this anymore. It is, even though they might still believe in it, sometimes training, especially those kind of soft skills, are not considered a necessity.
Right.
Why is it important?
I think to speak to the fact that you've kind of seen this disappearance of diversity with HR is the idea that many have felt that diversity was a fad. It's just something we should kind of do.
Right.
But what our conversation has really pushed people to is understanding that diversity is not a fad. It's not something that HR is just responsible for. It's something we're responsible for, each of us individually, every day, because we interact with people who are different from us, whether it's by race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, age, religion, gender. I mean, you name it. We're surrounded.
I'm gonna say it's changed in the almost 20 years that we as a city have been providing it. It may have started, and I wasn't with the city then, but it may have had this focus on black,
race.
white.
Yeah, absolutely.
And very
That's
much
correct.
a race thing. And as we have become more diverse as a city in a lot of other ways, you've added some other components.
Absolutely. I think it's important with our Diversity College that we remain relevant. And so one of the things that Latiesha and I have really been working on this year is making sure that the curriculum that we utilize, our facilitators that we bring in, can talk about topics related to diversity across a wide spectrum, because we are an evolving community, we're an evolving nation. And so it's important that we move beyond just race relations to all the ways that we're diverse.
You know, in some ways, age and generation is more different than race in terms of shaping people's worldviews and habits and how they relate. There's a lot of big gaps in that when you look from baby boomers to millennials.
Absolutely, and I think it's one of the things that we've really been working on is looking at the intergenerational diversity, and something that I think Latiesha has added a lot of value about that.
Yes, I actually have seen the differences as far as generational differences and how we tie those together in order for us to function, because you definitely want to identify the contributions from each age realm and how we can work together as a unified team.
Well, and I know we learned the things that motivate people. I mean, and certainly these are broad brush statements that aren't true of everybody. Let me just say that from the beginning. But people of different backgrounds may be motivated in different ways. Some people want more freedom. Some people want, more guidance. Some people want to know, there's different ways you kind of work with folks based on their personality, and their personality is defined by lots of different things. Partly it's completely individual and it isn't related to some of these categories, but some parts of it are, or maybe.
And I think that's the wonderful thing about our Diversity College, and the reason why when you find us on social media, on Facebook, you'll see us using the hashtag Join the Conversation. And the reason why we do that is for that very reason, is because everyone who comes into our Diversity College class comes with different experiences, different expertise, and when we bring you together, it's not so much that we're drilling information into the participants. It's not, lecture style. It is conversational. Even with our facilitators, we're careful to vet our facilitators in the way to let them know, hey, this is a conversation. We're guiding a conversation with our participants. We're not telling them what they should think when they leave here. We're giving them information and empowering them that if it pricks something in them that makes them think, maybe that perspective I've had for years isn't necessarily the best perspective. But I don't have you leave the room saying, oh, that is wrong. I have you leave the room saying, oh, I never considered it that way.
Well, let's talk about that, because that, there's a huge backlash politically in the country right now against political correctness. And so I think it's important to say you are not telling people what to think or how to say it. You are letting people learn from each other in a guided way that's safe.
And Latiesha and I both facilitate sessions for our diversity college. And so, it's a wonderful opportunity that we have to get to know our participants and to engage with them. And I know for me, in my experience, I've learned a lot from the participants as the facilitator. And so I don't know what Latiesha's experience has kind of been with that, but
it's been the same. With the level of exposure, you're able to know more and dismantle myths. So with being involved in a room where it is safe, as you mentioned, to be able to share thoughts and express concerns in areas that you may not have otherwise received any knowledge or understanding helps you to identify why people are motivated to move in the ways that they move.
Well, can you give me, and I know you don't want to name names, and I don't want you to, but just some general things about the conversation that have changed people's thinking or that have, been a real experience, so people might have some understanding of what would happen.
Yeah, I think we've had some really robust conversations, of course, around race relations. I think that's a topic that's always very key to diversity. So we've had conversations around that topic that has brought some people in the class to tears. I mean, literally, because as they heard the experiences of other people as it relates to race and ethnicity, they thought, my God, I never knew that had been someone else's experience because it wasn't mine. And it moved them very deeply in that way to hear other people's stories. So I think that has been one of the more pivotal moments that I've observed. But I also think that there have been the other moments of just a stillness in the room when, we're talking about a specific topic. And you just hear this quietness as people are contemplating what they're hearing for the first time. And then when the silence kind of lifts, it's okay, well, tell me what you were thinking in that moment. And some people have been at a loss for words to really know what to say. And so, people's responses are very different in the class. And the beautiful thing about our diversity college is it makes room for the various responses. You don't have to respond a certain way. You don't have to say anything in the class if you don't want to. It's very much an environment where you can come in and whatever your contribution is, it's what you decide it to be. And so I think that's something that we really value in the structure and the environment that we set for the college.
I think it's different. Probably people who join the diversity college do it because they're open to at least thinking about this topic. I hear a lot people say, and really people of both races, but maybe more white people, why do we have to keep talking about race? Oh my God, aren't we done with this? What is your response to that?
Well, I would have to say, first of all, I've heard it from those who are not white as well.
Yeah, it's true. And you maybe hear it from older people too?
I mean, I've heard it across generations. Yeah, I've heard it across race groups. And so, but I think it's a narrative that it's hard to get away from because it has been part of the foundation of this country. It has shaped who we are, in community with one another. And so I think it's hard to discontinue a conversation when it's a part of your history. I think what's more important is how you shape the conversation, that it doesn't stay at a place of resentment because of history, but how do we continue to grow together in community from this point forward? And I think that's a value we really try to instill.
Understand where, the person who might be working next to us or, sitting next to us at a restaurant or waiting on us or whatever, how they're may or may not be different, or what their experience might be, and how that relates to today. And I think that maybe is the difference, is that we're not necessarily rehashing the past, but looking at those, you know, if we say we have no stereotypes, we are lying. I might think consciously I have no stereotypes, but there's stuff back there.
Absolutely.
And you don't really realize it until you begin to have some conversations.
Exactly. When you're in a space together with one another, one of the first activities that we do at our level 1 is an activity called assumptions. And it really addresses that very topic that all of us make assumptions about people, places, and spaces. It's a human response that I think we all have. And so we put that out there right out front, so no one feels as though, oh, there's something wrong with you because you make assumptions. No, we all make assumptions. And what are the implications of making those assumptions? You know, how do they form biases that we might have against people? How do we then pigeonhole people by stereotypes as a result of our assumptions? And so that's one of our leading thoughts as you come into our diversity college, is dealing with the fact that we're human. And, you know, we're not perfect vessels. We are vessels that are always growing and evolving, and our diversity college just provides another platform for people to grow.
Well, let's talk about, you mentioned level 1, how these series of courses, because you're going to be adding your 3rd level, how they're structured and who, you know, they would be good for, and how people can learn about dates and registration.
Okay. Where our level 1 is set up to be introductory courses, where we really just kind of talk about the foundations of race, ethnicity. We talk about the foundations of intergenerational diversity. We look at disability awareness in our first level, and we do a baseline conversation about diversity, just what it is. So we all go into the conversation kind of thinking about it in the same way. And so our level 2, we have evolved a little bit this year.
Yes, we have. So level 2 is more intense, I will say, because it identifies world concepts. So you're looking at world religion, you're looking at how we connect with our LGBTQ neighbors, we're looking at how gender identification is a concern, or so have you.
Again, that is a topic that 20 years ago wouldn't have been out on the table.
Not, no.
Maybe gay was, but not so much, you know, transgender people or non-gender binary or all these other terms that are out there that I need some greater understanding on sometimes.
Right.
I heard someone on a talk show the other night, non-gender binary. I'm like, okay, you know, all right, I can figure that out maybe, but it is that changing thing.
Yes. And as you mentioned, race was just the traditional part of diversity that people would identify as something you could physically see as different. But we are so different in so many different ways as far as how we choose to live and identify as. And so even when you're dealing with microaggression, we have a topic on that, a session on that. So it definitely pinpoints other areas.
And religion, I think, has changed a lot in the South over the past 20 years. We are much more religiously diverse than we used to be. And I think, boy, after race, that might be the next area where there's a lot of stereotypes, because it's a deeply rooted faith. And if someone doesn't have that same core as you do, there's an immediate disconnect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes with people.
And I think where we are as a country right now, where a lot of unrest that we have in the area of terrorism over, especially I guess the last decade, religion has been intimately connected. And so people have formed very real opinions about those who are part of the Islamic faith. And so what does that look like exactly? And so part of our world religions class is really dispelling myths about what different religions is about. That it's not
and you have
necessarily
what's going on with Myanmar now, where Buddhists are, you know, like that isn't part of it. So how does that all relate? And culture and religion aren't quite always the same thing.
Absolutely, because even within religious groups, you have different cultures. You know, there's different cultures even in different race groups. And so, you know, culture is another part of the conversation that we cover in Diversity College. And as Latiesha was saying, our level 2, you know, is definitely more intensive because we focus more on the value of inclusion. So level 1, we're really looking at the value of diversity, but level 2 really pulls you in to say, we are different in all of these ways, but that's the reason why we have to be intentional about creating inclusive communities where everyone feels valued and feels respected, despite whatever, the ways are that we're different from each other. And so it's more of a deep dive at level 2. And our level 3 is really going to take us into a place of training the trainer, because our vision, being a staff of 2, is to really equip our citizens to be able to lead their own conversations around diversity.
And it is a community issue. It's not a city government issue.
Correct.
We're starting and facilitating the conversation, but that shouldn't be the extent of the conversation.
We want people to feel empowered to go into whatever their realm of influence is, whether it's their neighborhood, their faith centers, and their workplace, and be able to initiate conversations as well in the same format that we do Diversity College. And so we're really looking forward to the level 3.
Yes.
Well, we glossed over something because I think I know the answer. And I'm sure you do, but not everybody out there really maybe does. Why is diversity good? We're starting from this assumption that diversity is a good thing, or at least diversity is a thing and you have to accept or understand it a little bit. But why is that? I mean, there are a lot of people who might feel threatened by that or might not be comfortable with it. What are the assets of a diverse community, a diverse workforce?
Well, I'll start from my perspective. I think that diversity is so important because, and we've said it classically, if everybody in a room thought the same, where would the new, fresh ideas, creativity, and innovation in our country come from? When you think about it from the baseline level of inventions come about because someone looks and says, oh, there's something that's missing. There's something we don't have. There's a new contribution we need.
Or there's a whole better way that you haven't thought of.
And so if we all thought the same, if we all looked the same, if we all felt the same, where would the freshness and the newness come? Where would the innovation and the creativity come from? And so for me, diversity, the value lies in the fact that everybody has a unique contribution to offer. And so everybody's contribution is important. And so if we miss Robin's contribution, then we miss round robin, right? And so if we miss Latiesha's, then we miss what her offering is of ensuring that the work that we do in the Diversity College does continue on the path of having a conversation, and she offers a perspective to me that I don't have. And so I think for me, that's where the value of diversity comes from.
And I think some people are threatened by that. I mean, I think there's been surveys and studies of hiring managers, and there are those hiring managers that tend to hire people who look and think like them.
Yeah.
And what gets done in that workspace in terms of creativity and innovation and getting better versus people who are comfortable hearing new ideas and thinking about change and relating to new, it makes business sense because your customers don't all look like you.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially, when in an organization, when you rise to a certain level, you tend to be a little bit older maybe than the median. And you tend to have a different set of experiences, a different level of income. And so how do you understand what other people in your community go through, need, whatever that is? I mean, if nothing else, it is good business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And good relationships to begin to look outside yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point at the organizational level because valuing diversity in your workplace really affects your bottom line. So when you look at your return on your investment, if the staff that you're hiring for your organization is not diverse, and not just by race, not just by gender, but diverse, by educational level, by expertise and experience, then you're really, for lack of a better way of putting it, you're shooting yourself in the foot from a business sense because you're going to have everyone working in your organization that thinks the same. And so where's the growth factor? And every business wants to grow.
Those other organizations can have less conflict, which some people value. But if conflict is handled productively, it's continuous improvement. It's kind of the same thing.
Absolutely.
Well, I hope we've piqued people's interests out there. How can they learn more about when these classes are offered? And you cap the number of people in each class so that there can be conversations. So sometimes there's a waiting list. Tell us a little bit more where we can get those details.
You can always go to our website, which is at www.hampton.gov/unity. And you can learn more about the Diversity College by clicking on the tab there. And also,
we also encourage you to visit our Facebook page, in which that is Citizens Unity Commission, and we post information there about the courses and classes. classes.
Yes.
And we got some print materials coming for people
do.
who that works better than
We
the internet.
do, yes.
So there'll be a lot of ways people can learn more.
And definitely, and still in our local libraries and community centers, you'll find flyers and information that you can pick up and take with you.
Okay, well, thank you both so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having us.
you.
And thank you for listening. I know that sometimes thinking about change and diversity can be a little overwhelming and a little threatening, but you can do it in a very non-threatening environment where it is a learning experience and not programming, but learning and understanding. So please do look into Diversity College. Thanks for watching.